This is the Extensionists, Conversations with Great Thinkers in Agriculture. I'm Toban Dyck.
And I'm Jay Whetter. Hey, Toban.
Hey, Jay. So, before we start in any sort of formal way, my grain truck is running right now. It is waiting for me to be done this recording, and then I am jumping into that truck.
And running out the door.
And picking up seed, because my dad is out there seeding right now, and he's going to need more very soon.
And I'm going to run amok in your house and look in all your cupboards.
Do it. You can do inventory right away. Let us know what we have, please.
What are you planting today? What are you seeding today?
Seeding soybeans today, and we actually, all things being equal, we might finish later tonight.
Okay.
For sure. Well, I shouldn't say for sure. That's a terrible thing to say as a farmer. Hopefully, if not tonight, tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I just have a parcel of canola to seed.
Oh, right on.
And then are you saying right on because you are
canola? Yeah,
you're a canola
right.
man.
Nice to hear you're
good.
Canola.
You're growing canola. Yeah.
How are the seeding conditions this year?
Good. Typical spring in Manitoba. It's windy as all get out.
As all get out. Is that the word you actually wanted to say?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I was going to swear.
Yeah. So today we're chatting with a couple of people from the United States, which I think are our first American guests.
Yeah,
I think that's
you mentioned
surprising.
that earlier. That kind of
No. Oh, Frank Cara. No, was it Frank from Hawaii? There
yes.
you go. Yes.
That's
Good.
right.
Thanks, Abby.
Yes.
So these are our second and third guests from the States. But
yes.
Jane is with Montana State University Extension, and I mean the way they do extension in the United States. I'm kind of curious where this conversation goes to see if it's different or whether we even get there. But but it is good to check in with the extension practices in the States and see how something we might learn from them.
I feel like that connection to the States is. I mean, to say it's important is not really getting at what I'm trying to say. Of course, it's important, but I think there's something kind of mystical about the U.S. like and how it does things and it's also fun to connect her with real people because we're so used to talking about the U.S. as the U.S. But when you connect with individuals in the U.S., it's always a very different, very most of the times meaningful, impactful connection, and I'm very much looking forward to that.
I used to do back in my journalism days. I would get to go on these junkets to Europe, say sometimes, or around the States and that kind of thing. And I'd met a lot of the farm writers from the U.S. and to a person, they were so fun, so warm. Like I don't know. I really enjoy that perspective and spending time with them. So I think it's kind of, like you said, it's kind of surprising that we haven't tapped into that relationship that Canada has with the United States as much as we might. Yeah.
And like it may sound strange, but I feel like honored that we get to speak to the people that we get to meet for most of our guests. I mean, no, I would say all of our guests. I feel honored like that they're taking the time to speak to us and they're actually excited to talk to us. And I feel like these kinds of things are just so, I don't know. I get all like, I get teary, but
we're not paying them. They actually are they're doing that.
You're going to take it to tell the world that we're not paying them?
I don't know.
So listeners, we do not pay our guests in swag.
We pay them in
hoodies and
respect and admiration.
Respect and admiration. That's right. That's right. Our producer, Abby, is nodding her head. Yes. That's how we, incidentally, that's also how we pay Abby. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
So
she just got a raise. She now gets paid in respect and adoration.
And one other thing.
What's that?
Praise.
That's
the raise.
Praise. That's right.
Yeah. Great job.
Yeah. Increased responsibilities and
and mocking apparently.
and some mockery. That's right. It's a form of
Okay, you got to go. Do your
I have to go pick up
seeding
seed.
duties.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So on with the show. Do you like what you're hearing and want to support the Extensionists? If you are an agriculture company or association looking for a powerful way to get your message in front of Canadian farmers, then partner with us. Our listeners are farmers from coast to coast.
When you advertise with us, your brand isn't just another commercial break. It becomes part of our story. Ads on the Extensionists are personal and trusted. Our listeners value what they hear on the podcast.
Whether you're looking for a 60-second ad somewhere throughout the podcast or even an exclusive episode sponsorship, we have options that will work for you.
So if you're ready to get your message out there and connect with farmers across Canada, let's talk. Visit theextensionists.com for more information.
All right, welcome to the podcast. We've got two guests today, which is something new for us.
Brand new for us, yeah.
So we have Jane Mangold, and Jane is a professor in land resources and earth sciences at Montana State University and is also an extension specialist, which fits with our extensionist theme. And then we have Nicole Fleming, who's the director and owner of Training from the Back of the Room, TBR Community. And so this is where it all started. Is in fact one of our previous guest, Brianne Tideman. She used to work for Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada in Alberta and is just moving to Norway, which is kind of exciting. Jane, I'm not sure whether you had that news about Brianne, but
I did not know that.
So Brianne was telling us, you really need to talk to Jane Mangold about moving away from sage on the stage to training from the back of the room.
That's right. Yeah.
And I just thought, okay, well, that is so compelling. We definitely have to talk to Jane. And then Jane thought, well, you know what? Jane is, again, I'm putting words in your mouth. We'll get to all of this, and this is the world's longest introduction. I'm sorry.
Yeah, geez.
But then
Didn't
Jane,
Abby just tell you to be quick? Anyway, go on.
Yeah, it's my what is it? Defiance, oppositional defiance.
That's right.
My brother's wife tells me that I have that sometimes. So if someone tells me to do something, and then I said, "Well, screw you, I'm going to do the opposite." So yes, here this is me being quick. So Jane thought Nicole, who is the owner, like I said, of Training from the Back of the Room, should be here to make sure we get the full gist of the Training from the Back of the Room experience. Anyway, Jane, you are from a small town called Riceville, Iowa, and so I had to look that up. 800 people. So I suspect you two are both, Jane or Nicole, you're also from a small town near Lansing, Michigan. So you're both small town people. I grew up in the countryside. My hometown had 500 people. So we're all kind of kindred spirits here. Toban's hometown is huge by comparison. Winkler is about 10,000.
Probably like 13.
13? Oh, yeah. You're really
it's the kind of town that would correct you, right? They'd be very. No. We're at least 14,000.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
we're huge.
So Riceville, Iowa. Part of the culture is Mennonite and Amish, which is kind of interesting because Winkler is also a large Mennonite community, if I can say that, Toban. Can I say that?
That is an uncontroversial comment you just
good.
made.
Right on. All right, but what my favorite thing, Jane, is so this website was talking about attractions in Riceville, and you're probably going to start rolling your eyes at this. You're a long way removed from Riceville, Iowa. You're way over in Montana now, but the number one attraction is a curtain. Yeah, they're really scraping the bottom of the barrel. So do you have any idea? I know what it means. Do you have a guess as to what that might be?
No, I this is going to be a learning experience for me.
Well,
what is the curtain in Riceville,
would have been
Iowa?
there. It would have been there when you were there. And again, it's one of 5 curtains left from the Brown Opera House. This may be American folk history that I have no idea what this means. And it's in the library in Riceville on display for everyone to see. And it's some painted curtain that used to be in some vaudeville theater. Well, this Brown, is that ringing a bell? Wow, you don't even know.
In all honesty, not really.
So I'm not gonna. You're saying I shouldn't drive to Riceville to see the famous curtain?
I could tell you other things to drive to Riceville for.
Oh, okay. Well,
I mean, you should see the curtain, I guess, if you're there.
We have to now. I think we just.
There are other attractions.
what are the other attractions in Riceville?
Well, one of my favorite things about Riceville is it has a great rails to trail bike trail that actually runs from Iowa into Minnesota. Okay. There's a connection there.
And it used to be a rail line? Or is that what?
It was a rail line. I think it was the Northern Great Wapsipinicon
Well, that really rolls off the tongue.
Rail. Yeah. It's a beautiful trail. Most of it actually is developed since I graduated and left Riceville. There's a really nice county park there, Lake Hendricks. And it's just a really nice little farming community.
Okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nicole, is there anything? So you'll have to name your actual little small town now and tell me what's the most exciting. Why should I drive to visit your little town?
I grew up in Charlotte, Michigan, and that is spelled like Charlotte, but pronounced Charlotte for whatever reason. I can't come up with one reason why you should go visit Charlotte, Michigan, to be honest. And that is probably why I am no longer there. Okay, here's one thing.
Okay.
So I'm a rock climber, and the only outdoor rock climbing in the lower part of Michigan is about 15 minutes from where I grew up.
Okay.
In Grand Ledge.
Okay, that's where the rock climbing is, in Grand Ledge. Okay.
Yeah,
What about
very-
Winkler? Why should people go to Winkler, Toban?
For the rock climbing, obviously. No, there's no rock climbing.
World's
Winkler.
flattest.
So-
It's as flat
so-
as Iowa.
So like Nicole, when I was 18, I left Winkler. I was like, there's no way. I'm not coming back. I went to the city, university, and then Toronto for a bit, but then I came back, and I'm now taking over the family farm. So that's what brought me back. But yeah, no, I have a complicated relationship with the town that I farm nearby. So yeah, I understand. But I want to talk. So Jane, hiking and biking, I understand, and Nicole, rock climbing. So this is interesting.
So you're not going to ask me about the derelict, empty buildings in downtown Hartney?
You know what? I just don't care.
And
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Jane.
yeah. Nicole,
I'm just so excited
Nicole
to
and
talk
I,
about some of these other things.
Nicole and I have been invited to be part of our hometown economic development boards. Okay, yes, continue.
Hiking and biking. So I know this is unrelated, but my wife and I just Jay gets tired of this because we just got into running. So I'm going to run my first marathon soon. I did a half last year, and so we've been watching a lot of running videos on YouTube. And so we watched this this live stream of the Cocodona 250 in Arizona, which is a 250-mile running race that happens. It takes Black Canyon. It starts and ends up in Flagstaff, Arizona. Just an incredible thing. So I mean, I'm not going to ask you if you're ultra marathoners, but I do like the physical activity, the hiking and biking and rock climbing. I think that's great, and I think the U.S. is such a fantastic place for stuff like that.
Except for that one person.
What's that?
No, I'm not
Oh
going to
yeah.
Okay. Moving right along. What was that phrase in Jane's bio, that strange word for land that needs help? Abused land rehabilitation. So we got a lot of saline soil on the Canadian prairies. And I guess you could say that's abused from farming management practices over the years. But what is that still a big part of your working life, Jane? Is this abused land rehabilitation, and what is that exactly?
Yeah, so I got a master's degree from Montana State before I got my PhD here, and it was in abused land rehabilitation. That was mostly, saline soils could be part of that, but it was mostly working with mine tailings.
Mm-hmm.
So
not necessarily
pretty drastically disturbed.
Right.
I don't work in mine settings for the most part anymore, but I do work with invasive plants, which can be a cause or a symptom of abused land, and trying to restore that land to bring it back to some level of productivity. I'm doing a little bit of work on coal mine reclamation because a lot of that reclamation happens, but seeding occurs, but a lot of weeds tend to move in after the disturbance instead of the species that we seed. So we're trying to find ways to control the weeds and reestablish desirable vegetation.
And you work with farmers as well?
I work more with ranchers than farmers, so livestock producers. Some of them will have mixed operations where they're farming and have livestock and hay production. I tend to work more in perennial plant systems, so rangelands, prairie grasslands. Yep. And I also work a lot with the managers of public lands. So our state and federal public lands.
Okay. I just, for some reason, I just thought of the word sage because we were talking of sage on the stage. And
oh, yeah.
I grew up in a part of southwest Manitoba that has a lot of native prairie grasslands kind of areas, and also tame pastures and perennial feed lands. But yeah, there's a lot of wild sage. So, but we'll get to sage on a stage in a second.
Yeah, that's the type of system I work in.
Yeah. So. Okay. And are there challenges with regard to communications to farmers? Like what are the challenges, and what do you like? What started you on this training from the back of the room journey? Like, did you recognize a need or a gap in communication?
Yeah, well, so I've been an extension specialist for almost 18 years now. And I think one of the things that I've always struggled with is, as a subject matter expert, I have a lot of knowledge and information about the topic that I'm asked to give presentations on to farmers, ranchers, land managers. And, I'm really interested in that and fascinated by that, but in a lot of cases, it's too much for my audience. They maybe don't want all those nitty-gritty details, right? They want very practical, applicable information. So I often find myself being the sage on the stage. It's a very common practice that I would be asked to come give a presentation to a group of producers, and I show up with my 45 PowerPoint slides, and I work through the slides and maybe take some questions at the end, and then I sit down.
Yep.
And then another expert comes up and does the same thing for their topic, right?
That's pretty much the formula, though, isn't it?
That's the formula. Yeah. And I just feel like we can do better. We can do better for our audiences, our clients, our stakeholders. And I think for us as extension professionals, it's more interesting to do things in a different way as well.
Yeah.
And, the longer I'm in my career, the more I want to do things differently to keep it fresh and to try to improve.
What was the moment, if you can recall, when you thought
something needs to change?
Exactly. When we need to
the eureka moment.
Was it a particular event, or was it just tell us about that time?
I think it's been it slowly evolved over time, doing it for so long, and then also watching my colleagues do the same thing. And, I might be sitting in the audience listening to my colleagues, and no offense to my colleagues, but it's wow, I can really only listen to what they're saying for about 15 minutes, and then I start checking out.
Yeah. Yeah. And you, yeah.
So,
so you have a short attention span. So
well, now I think Nicole will tell you otherwise, that the brain science behind training from the back of the room suggests that all humans have a attention span that's, I don't want to call it short, but it's not 45 minutes long to listen to the same person go through a bunch of slides.
It's probably about half that for me. Or no, not half of 45, half of 15.
Yeah, right. Right.
And even now, it's probably getting shorter and shorter with people. Although maybe that's not actually true, but we hear that the attention spans are getting shorter and shorter with our social media training and our constant flipping and that kind of thing. Maybe Nicole, is that in fact true, or what are your thoughts on attention spans and limiting the time length of presentations?
My research about shortening attention spans finds that it's actually not true. We just have more distractions nowadays, I think, is really the cause of it. But it's a really good incentive to do something different to mix it up, because our brains can really only take in, information for a short period of time. We need a break, or we need, a change to be able to process that information.
That's
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah.
So our ability to focus actually hasn't changed over time, or like what is, can you unpack that a little bit more?
It's not changed significantly over time. Evolution takes a little bit more time than that. And so, I think, the consensus is that we just have more distractions that are, breaking up our ability to focus.
Well, that makes sense.
That's interesting.
And is there an ideal length of time? I think, is it Carmine Gallo? Is that the Talk Like TED person? Uses 18 minutes as a, and so does that sound like in the ballpark, Nicole? Or what do you have a length of time before you for the sage on the stage, kind of like, okay, that's enough, then we're going to move on to some training from the back of the room?
We really suggest like 10 to 15 minutes. So if you're talking longer than 10 to 15 minutes, that information is just going to be overload to your learner.
Yeah.
So every 10 to 15 minutes, it's time to, allow your learners to do something with what they've heard. Allow them to write or talk, or do an activity that reinforces the content.
Jane, so tell me about that time when you first heard Nicole. Was it light bulbs going off moment, or what was that day like?
Yeah, well, it goes back a little bit further than Nicole. I think it was 2012. I was like 4 years into this job, and I actually had an opportunity to go to a training from the back of the room workshop that Sharon Bowman, who was the founder of Training from the Back of the Room, did here in Great Falls, Montana. So I did that program, and some of the concepts really resonated with me. And I did implement some of them, but I didn't give it a lot of thought. And then in 2023, I was awarded sabbatical, and I wanted to spend my sabbatical time learning how to teach better and how to be a better extension professional. So I looked into seeing if Training from the Back of the Room was still around, and it was, and Nicole was leading the program at that time. So 2 years ago, I took the 2-day practitioner course from Nicole. Love the way she teaches. I love her approach. And yes, light bulbs were going off. And I stayed on an additional day with Nicole to do the certification to teach the 2-day practitioner course. And that was in May of 2024. And since that time, I've been trying to implement strategies and ideas into my own programming. And then I've also, with Nicole's help, held 2 trainings for extension professionals here in Montana. One in November of 2025, and then one this past April.
And
that's fantastic. So, you talk about like the 45-minute presentation and the big slide deck, and, or maybe it was 45 slides. I'm not sure. So how has that changed for you? Can you kind of walk us through what you do now that really resonates with your audience?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, again, I'm still practicing, and like I said before we started this show, there's 6 principles that Training from the Back of the Room operates on. One of them is shorter over longer. So and that gets back to this idea of delivering content in 10 to 15 minute increments. So I try to break my content up into 10 to 15 minute segments, and then have the audience do something. It may only be 1 or 2 minutes that they spend doing something, but I try to break it up. Maybe it's even as simple as giving the audience a chance to ask questions during that time. So that's one of the things I've been doing. Another of the principles is movement, the importance of movement and movement over sitting. So having audience members they're either getting up and moving to look at something. Maybe they're passing samples, down the line, samples of invasive plants to look at. Maybe they're working with some cards. They're doing a matching game. So I've just been trying to integrate more activities that range in time from 1 minute to do them to maybe 10 to 12 minutes to do them, and break the content up and give the learners a chance to interact with the content before we move on to a new piece of content.
Yeah. And have you found, since you've been using them, have you found a significant uptick in engagement and attention, I guess?
Well, I haven't done formal evaluations, before and after, trying one way versus the other.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like we all have more fun while we're together.
That's important.
And, I get a lot of thank yous and compliments after the program is over. For the extension educators that have come to the training that happened in November, I have done some I did a 6 months after that workshop. I reached out to them again and had them take a survey to ask them, how much interactive hands-on programming are you doing? I've seen a 10-point increase in the amount of hands-on interactive programming that they're doing. Coming into the workshop, they were doing about 48%. They estimated they did about 48% of their training kind of interactive and hands-on. That's up to 58% now. Now that's the extension professionals. What we don't have yet is to see if those programs are being more effective for our audiences.
Right. It's really hard to track. Yeah, Nicole, maybe to you, how do you, Jay and I have we've talked to groups too about extension and done some of that stuff. It's really hard they all want at the end of the day, at the end of whatever we talk about, to kind of be armed with, how do we measure the success of what we're doing now? If we take, we go to our grower groups or our farmer audiences and we do the things that you're talking about, how do we really how do you know if it's working, right? I don't know. Do you have a comment on that, Nicole?
That is really hard. As a consultant, I go in and work with organizations, and then I'm not there to see, the impacts later. And so it's kind of word of mouth on how things are implemented and how it's going. I do hear a lot of good feedback. The trainers and even the teachers who use our techniques, they find that it's a little bit more work up front, but when they're delivering content, it's easier on them. So we hear things like that. We do hear how their students love the movement and are so much more engaged with some of the techniques, but we don't have those hard numbers. That's something we need to start doing, is following up more after the fact and trying to put that together.
Yeah, you and me both. If you figure out something, let me know, and I'll do the same. But
Great, thank you.
Just the movement thing, which kind of is right up my alley, because even when I've just heard this presentation about educating boys, and how our school systems are in some ways failing boys, or not connecting with boys, and recess and getting up and moving is so critical. And I think the same applies to men. And I don't know whether women feel the same way, but often in farming, the audience, it's changing, but traditionally has been predominantly men. And the idea of getting up and moving or doing something interactive, I think probably really resonates.
Well, you and I have talked about that too. Just the role of even say you're in a field day or you're an extension event and you're talking about, let's say, nodulation on roots, to actually have like whether you do use a 3D printer or something and like print something that shows this and like, have a very, very tactile element to what you're talking about. I think there's a role for stuff like that. Go ahead, Jane.
I was just gonna so training from the back of the room. So when I think
Jane was just gonna say something.
Sorry.
Oh, well, before we leave that idea, Jay, your comment about like it's not just boys, it's men. Like I think that adults want to learn in the same ways that kids want to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as we go through our educational system, we become more and more sedentary. So that by the time we're young adults in college, we mostly get lectured to.
Yeah.
Again, from the sage on the stage. And one of the things that's been interesting to me implementing TBR is that some of these old crusty guys in the audience are enjoying this and like they're embracing the activity. And I've also heard from one of our extension educators who has come to the workshop that he tended to do hands-on activities with his 4-H kids, the youth development programs that he does, but he's like, I never thought about actually integrating some of these similar concepts into my adult education. And he's doing that now, and it's being met with it's well received. I think adults want to have fun.
They do.
when
they want to laugh.
they learn just as much as kids do. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's perfect. Well, thanks, Jane. I thought Toban was going to say Jay, but Jay and Jane start off the same. So
his attention span's not even 5 seconds long. He cut off before the word.
I'm only good with
Jane.
I'm
was
only good
fully
with
uttered.
3-letter words. Okay, but Nicole, so Jane a few minutes ago set up the 6 learning principles of TBR nicely with the reference to shorter. But can you talk about the training from the back of the room, the 6? I guess the principles of TBR are these 6 learning principles, and then the 4C framework. I think we need a little definition of what those are.
Walk us through this.
Yeah.
The 6 learning principles are all about engagement and attention, and I think Jane mentioned most of them. I can run through them again. Sure. So they're movement, writing, and this is from the learner perspective. So your learners should be moving, they should be writing, they should be interacting with images, they should be experiencing different activities, different ways to approach the information. And then shorter. So as a 5-foot tall person, that is obviously my favorite, is shorter.
You get a lot of play on that one. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, exactly. That's really a reminder for us to, keep it short and involve our learners regularly. And then talking. Mm-hmm. So our learners should be talking. And we sometimes get some pushback about that, but the key here is talking about the topic.
What's the pushback on talking? I thought that would be the most obvious.
Not everybody wants to talk.
Well, it's it's the teachers.
Yeah.
The teachers, they're like, wait, my students should talk, and that's how they're going to learn. But yes, getting them talking about the topic. Yes.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Well, that's
I get it now. Sometimes Toban needs to pull me along. So I was thinking these are the rules for the presenter, but no, this is just the whole package. This is the whole room. So everybody should be talking and participating. Okay, I get it now.
How have you found, like with this kind of train the trainer model, like how does that work? Does that work well for the program?
It works really well. So I'm a shy introvert, and training people is not something I ever thought I would do. And I would not do it if it weren't for techniques like this. This type of, this type of training where you're not expected to be the sage on the stage, this is what I enjoy, because you are more on the side guiding your learners through the experience. And our goal is to make sure that our learners know that they are the experts. They come with a lot of knowledge, and they probably know a good amount about what we're going to share. And so creating the space for our learners to share that information with each other really shows them that they bring valuable knowledge to the experience. And that's another, big key to training from the back of the room.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. We've certainly heard from a lot of extension specialists here in Canada anyway, that they're really excited for a different way of, like, Jane, you mentioned this too, a different way of doing things. And there seems to be like this hunger for wanting to do something different. And a very kind of open acknowledgement of, hey, I was trained to do things a certain way throughout university. And it's kind of a very formulaic approach to extension and to communication. And there seems to be, at least I've found, like a lot of desire for, or like an acknowledgement of, like, there's got to be more, and a desire to learn different ways of doing things. And I think I'm hearing from you guys that it's similar out your way. And I think, I don't know, like, is it similar in universities as well, where you don't get much of that kind of creative approach to communication throughout your university?
I can share my experience. So I have a degree in microbiology, and my classes were very lecture heavy, except for the labs. The organic chemistry labs. Those were my favorite classes because you actually got to get in, doing different things. Yeah. But the organic chemistry lectures, that was in a giant lecture hall of, 200 students, and it was really boring.
Yeah.
And I don't remember anything from that. So, I think in some universities they're using the more interactive techniques, but that's not what I experienced as a student. And that was quite some time ago. But yeah. Jane, what do you see at the university there?
Yeah, I think it's still, lecture format is still the most common approach. You have the exceptions, the professors that do way more interactive, hands-on, or kind of the flipped classroom, where when you're together in the classroom, you're doing, you're problem solving, you're working on hands-on things, but then your homework is more like listening to a lecture. So there is that flipped classroom idea is out there, but I would say, for the most part, it's still predominantly lecture. And, one thing I think is interesting, and this applies both for the university setting and for extension educators, is we tend to be subject matter experts. We are trained in our subject matter expertise.
Yeah.
We are not trained how to teach.
Yeah, right.
And one thing I think one reason I think TBR is really appealing to extension, what we've seen so far and the feedback that Nicole and I have received, is it's actually providing people with the tools to be a good teacher. So yes, you're still a subject matter expert, but now you're placing that expertise within this design model, the 4Cs map, that it's like you're writing a lesson plan in a way, and you have a learning outcome and a learning objective, so that it's much more like an elementary teacher or a secondary teacher who has been trained in how to be an educator. It's formulated more like that, instead of just standing up and sharing your expert knowledge on a topic.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm just envisioning people hearing this and
I'm glad.
Being a little bit reluctant. Yeah. Just because, so, the subject matter expert, creating your 45-minute slide deck and then just talking to your slides. I mean, you've taken an hour or whatever it is to prepare your PowerPoint, and then you just go to every little town around Montana or Michigan or Kentucky or Manitoba and just like say the same thing over and over and over again. And it's easy. Like, you know, but what you're saying, Jane, sounds hard. Is it?
It is hard. It takes time. And in fact, one of the questions I've asked the people that have come to the workshop in November and then more recently in April is I asked people to indicate things that limit their ability to deliver hands-on interactive programming, and time.
Yeah.
Time is the number one. Like
Yeah, I believe that.
about 78 to 80% of the respondents to that survey question are indicating time as being the number one challenge, and I agree with that. Like Nicole said earlier, it does take more time to prepare when you're getting ready to deliver the program, and it's a lot of. I don't want to say it's a lot of work, but it's more work than just putting a PowerPoint slide together. But when you are delivering it, it's so much more rewarding. And actually, the learners have to work. If you've done it correctly,
Yeah.
when you're out delivering the program, the learners are working. And you're just walking around as the guide on the side, helping them work through the new information.
Yeah. Sage on the stage, guide on the side. I like
Yeah.
that. I like
Yeah.
that.
Training,
we,
from the back of the room.
we had a guest on at one point, and she'd mentioned like this approach of the answers in the room, right? I mean, so we, you know, when we facilitate, Jay and I, we often kind of use that model as well, where it's like we're not there to tell you, we're here as facilitators, right? And we'll get you guys to come up with the answer, and of course we always come up out of a day learning just as much as they did, if not more, about kind of what kind of solutions they're pitching. But I sometimes feel when we give, or when we've talked to extension specialists and going to give them the license to be creative and to think differently about how they're communicating to their audience, that there's almost like a relief valve that goes. They're like, oh, good. I'm allowed to be creative. I can do things differently. I don't have to do it. I don't have to have like a poster presentation, under a tent every time. I can do something different. Like that's I find there's a huge appetite for it. Have you found the same?
Yeah, and I think the neat one of the ways TBR is so, I think, relevant for extension is because you go away from that 2-day practitioner workshop with dozens of ideas to make learning more interactive.
Yeah.
So another limiting factor for extension educators, another limiting factor to delivering interactive and hands-on is they don't have tools and ideas for doing it.
Right.
And this practitioner course gives you those tools. And in fact, and Nicole can talk about this too, but the whole course demonstrates the tools and ideas as they're being taught to the participants. So they see them in action as they're learning about them.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Could you talk a little bit about some of those tools, Nicole?
I think one of the most exciting things that Jane and her group has run with is the card game for the, you're using the cards to name the different weed species. It's so simple, but so effective. So that is one of them. And we have... So I think you're using dot voting as well in some of your classes, Jane.
Yeah.
And
what is that?
Yeah,
Dot wedding?
what is the activity where you're dot voting on? I'm sorry, I can't remember.
Well, dot voting, so you might use a flip chart. You might have some words on a flip chart, and then everyone in the audience gets a couple colored dot stickers, like you see it. I don't know if you use, in Canada, we use them at garage sales. to like the colored stickers, the
I
little
know
round circles,
totally. Yeah.
to like price items.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's called dot voting, and everyone in all the learners in the classroom get a couple sticker dots, and then like they go up to the flip chart and they vote for, this is what I want to hear about.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a program where I talk about native plants that look like non-native invasive plants. And, we don't want them to be mistakenly managed and controlled when we're trying to control weeds. And we can't get through all of the species pairs in the hour that we have together. So I put those species pairs on a flip chart, and then everybody gets to come up and vote for the 2 pairs that they want to hear about most.
Right on.
And then I take that information, and then we work through the material together, going through those 5 or 6 species pairs that we have time to do.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could.
So
see
it's one example of a dot voting, but you could apply it to so many different topics.
When Toban and I, we just did a presentation for Manitoba Agriculture Extension staff, and one person said that it kind of reminded me of their concern, and it goes back to like going town to town to town saying the same thing over and over again. You get bored with your own presentation. And then he kind of, as he was talking, came up with this idea of, so maybe I have 6 parts. And then I asked the audience, okay, which 3 do you want me to talk about? And so it's exactly what you're doing. I just like but I don't think he thought along the lines of putting it on a flip chart and getting people to vote with their dots. But I really like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the neat thing about doing that is it gets people up and out of their seat, right?
Yeah.
So it's movement.
Yeah.
And they are visually looking at, okay, here's the potential content that we're going to talk about while Jane is presenting. So they're thinking about it at that level. They're also thinking about it internally, like, what's most relevant to me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do I want to know about? They're physically putting their sticker.
Yeah.
And then they're also seeing, like, what do other people in the room want to hear about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right.
So they're connecting with the material, and they're connecting with their peers on a lot of different levels.
Right.
And
Yeah, it's
I
so
think
great.
that makes the material more relevant for them.
Yeah. Just thinking about this now, like, I was going to say, you should listen to our podcast. No, but we've interviewed lots of people, extension specialists in Canada and abroad, who have really interesting approaches to that could maybe, either help TBR or vice versa or whatever. But one of the things that we use, I think that you heard from somebody, is at the end of a presentation, if we give one, is that we have these speech bubble whiteboards. And so we get them to write one thing that they want to work on as a communicator, as an extension specialist. And then we take their picture, and then holding this speech bubble, and then we follow up in a couple of weeks and ask them how it's going, right? Yeah. And I think that was kind of a fun,
Yeah.
that's kind of a fun
It
thing
is
that
fun, yeah.
we've continued to do. It's a neat approach, but I love these techniques. That's so great. So, is your card game? Do you have like a TBR branded deck of cards that you send out to practitioners?
Great idea.
We don't. We should.
You should.
We in the class we do. We teach the 4 C's
I'm glad
with
you
a
got
card
that.
game.
Okay.
And so that's how we demonstrate that.
Tell us about the
But
4 C's.
yeah,
we,
just to share in class, we do. How many times you go to a session and you read all of these learning outcomes? Here's what we're going to cover today. And it's a bunch of text on a slide, and it's very dry and boring. Well, in the training from the back of the room class, we actually have people read over the learning outcomes, decide on the 2 that they're the most interested in, and then they dot vote on a poster on those learning outcomes. And just as Jane said, it allows the participants to see, how am I similar to the class group? Do we have the same interests?
I love that.
Do we
Yeah.
have, some different interests?
Yeah.
So in the class that I did last week, there were a couple learning outcomes that only had like 1 or 2 dots. And so you might think that people are like, oh, I dot voted on that, but everybody else is interested in these other things. But the people who didn't dot vote on those, they're like, oh, what are those? Why is that person interested in that?
That's so cool, yeah.
So it's a great way to get people to read that type of information and do something with it. And it's just a very different way to do things. So we go through all of the class content using the tools that we're teaching them to use, so they learn how to facilitate them. And all of these tools are content independent, so they can be used to teach about noxious weeds or how to teach second graders how to do their math. So it's a great variety.
My wife's a grade 4 teacher, and she's struggling to teach her kids math right now, so it resonates. Yeah,
it resonates. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that we list the 4 C's.
Yes.
Since Nicole, you brought them up. So what are they?
Yeah. The first one is connections, and with that, we're looking to connect learners to each other and learners to the content. The second one is concepts, and that is the new information we're sharing with our learners, and the goal is to keep it short and interactive. And then the third C is concrete practice. This is usually where we complete our learning outcome. We want to see our learners doing something with the content, so we know that they've learned what we've intended them to learn. And then the last one is conclusions, and that is about allowing our learners to summarize, evaluate, celebrate the learning, and then create a plan to use it.
Have you taken TBR to Canada yet? Have you come north of the border?
I have not. We do have some trainers in Canada,
nice.
But if there's an opportunity, I would love to come to Canada.
Awesome.
But it's not Egypt, but we're close.
It's not Egypt.
You're
that's
saying
okay.
you were just in Egypt, which is very impressive. Yeah.
So you were doing TBR in Egypt? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah. That's with was it an egg related?
It was not.
Okay.
We had some teachers, we had some professional trainers in various industries. Honestly, training from the back of the room really grew quickly in the project management community. And we're looking to kind of, get into universities and some other groups other than project management. And the funny thing is, these techniques, Sharon Bowman was a second grade teacher, and she started going to these education conferences, and the sessions were really boring, very lecture based. And so she wrote the books and developed these classes, to share what she was using in the second grade classroom with adult learners. And it was just, it was really successful in these pocketed communities, but it really has wide applications.
Oh, that's I could. Yeah, again, my wife's a grade 4 teacher, and she's doing her master's right now. And I could see her. Maybe we should. She should not be a teacher anymore and can work for us.
There you go.
Sure. I'll pitch it to her.
Have you had that conversation?
No, I have not had that conversation yet. No.
So Jane and Nicole will hear first, and then Jamie will hear second.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
So Nicole, when you agreed to come on this podcast and have this opportunity to talk about TBR as an extension tool or a training, was there something you really wanted to make sure our audience heard?
I mean, I'm very passionate about the outdoors and, some of the things that Jane is also interested in. So I just really want the audience to know that, these techniques are great for sharing the types of things that you're sharing. And, I'd love to just chat or help if there is any interest in picking up some of these interactive techniques. I know that it takes a little bit more time on the front end, but it really is so much more rewarding to see your learners interacting with these techniques and knowing that these ways are more successful than lecture for getting your point across and getting learners to be able to take this information back and actually use it.
Yeah, I think that's, and maybe, I mean, the four of us are quite interested in effective communication and getting our points across. Like, do you feel like most people just are going through the motions and I got an hour to fill, I'm going to fill it and move on? Like, is there a laziness within the communications world?
Maybe we'll throw this one to you, Jane. Yeah.
I feel like, I don't really want to call it a laziness, but I feel like I think both of you have used the term formulaic. It's like we've been trained to teach and to learn in this way. That's very much the teacher standing at the front of the room, and we are fairly docile, we're just receivers of the information and not necessarily engaging with the information. So I think it's what's comfortable for us, and not necessarily like we're just too lazy to implement it. It's just the way we do things. It's the culture. And we have to start changing that culture for the benefit of our stakeholders when we think about extension, right? And you want to extend that even further, like for the betterment of our agriculture and natural resource systems.
Right. Yeah, if your objective is to make agriculture better or resource systems better, then that should be the incentive to figure out ways to communicate in using methods that actually increase the uptake. Jane, I just wanted to make sure that Jane had had a chance to answer that same question about coming on the podcast.
Okay, go ahead, but then I have more questions.
Do you?
Yeah,
okay.
I do.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Remind me what the question is.
Oh, just about when you were offered to come on this podcast, and was there something that you really wanted to get across to people?
Yeah, for me, it is kind of thinking as an extension educator, encouraging people to think about doing it differently, and that training from the back of the room has a place in extension systems. I strongly believe that. When I took the workshop from Nicole, I thought, I need to take this back to my colleagues so we can do our jobs better. Yeah. I have brought it back to my colleagues. We've had 2 practitioner workshops now. They've been super well received. I've received comments like every extension professional should take this course.
Oh, so awesome.
So I just can't emphasize enough like how let's think about doing things differently for the benefit of our stakeholders and the things that we care and value, right? If you think about extension educators, we're all very passionate about the work that we do, and we're trying to better people's lives by taking research-based information out to people that can put it into practice for the betterment of their lives. And we should be striving to do that in the most effective way so that they can retain that information and they have the motivation to put that information into practice.
I like that. Well put. That was great. Yeah. So thanks for that, Jen. My concluding questions are more about, I want to know about hiking and biking. I saw your water bottle, Jane, and it was full of stickers, and I think some of them were biking related. So,
I think you saw Bike Walk Montana.
Yes, I did.
That was the one you probably. Wow, you're very observant.
I like it.
Yeah.
Science.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like, what role does biking and hiking play in your life?
Well, and this actually is related to training from the back of the room and brain science, I think, is I just love like getting out and moving through nature.
That's so awesome.
And I think it's good for my brain. Like when you can get on a trail, whether you're hiking or you're on a bike, and just move, movement, and just let your brain kind of decompress and let it go where it wants to go in a creative way. Like, and be in touch with nature. That sounds kind of corny, but like, I love just hearing the birds sing, hearing the wind blow through the trees, feeling the sunshine on your skin. Like, just, it's very, like all of your senses are involved in that. And I think that's good for the brain, right?
Yeah, I know. There's something about that we don't talk about a lot. Like certainly on the podcast and just in general, is like there is a connection there, right? I mean, you don't want to go and you don't want to tell everybody that they have to go exercise or like go outside all the time. But there is a strong connection between. I agree with you. I enjoy the same things, being outside and physical activity. And Nicole, you got the rock climbing. Like these they're not separate, right? And we make loose connections, but I think this is for another podcast episode entirely. But I think there's a strong case there. There's a strong connection between that kind of stuff and being good at the other stuff that we do, right? And I think I do my best thinking when I'm running, right? I 100%. And if I didn't do that, then I notice that those days are different, right? And no, I like that. So what kind of biking do you do? Is it mountain biking, road biking?
Oh, I like to get on my road bike, or like, I don't do like single track mountain biking, but I like getting on like gravel roads, secondary roads, or on my road bike. Yeah. I'm not like a hardcore, bike rider.
You don't have like the time trial bike with the space helmet and the.
Well, I have done a time trial like in a different part of my life. So when I was way more competitive. So now I exercise more just to get out versus compete. But
I like the idea of movement as a learning principle. I think I think if there's an underlying message in this whole conversation, it's one of them is that movement can be an effective learning principle. But so I wanted to hear about Nicole's activities.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to go there. Because I want to hear about rock climbing.
Yeah, exactly.
If the analogies.
Well, Nicole runs a little bit too, right, Nicole?
I have competed in 5 half marathons.
Oh, good for you. We won't talk times and splits right now, but maybe for episode 2. That's kidding.
Splits, that'd be me if I was running a marathon. Anyway, but rock climbing, and you were saying that near Charlotte, in that place that's 15 minutes away. But Kentucky must have a lot of decent rock climbing, does it? Yeah.
Yes. So I started rock climbing. Oh gosh, I think it was 21 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And basically, since I started climbing, every life decision has been based on rock climbing. So the reason that my husband and I live in Kentucky is because we have a world-class climbing destination an hour away.
Oh, yeah.
And every time we go climb there, we meet somebody who has traveled from somewhere else in the world to come just to small town eastern Kentucky and climb at the Red River Gorge.
Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. So how often do you go then? Do you go?
Well, not quite enough. We have been building a house for the last 6 years. And then, of course, taking over the training from the back of the room, TBR Community has been a lot of work. So not as often as we would like, but we're trying to get back into that. I had the opportunity to also travel to Thailand and run a TBR camp for our trainers. And that was my first time climbing outside in about 6 years. But I spent an extra week climbing in Thailand, and it was absolutely amazing.
Fun. Rock climbing is something I have never done, apart from like in school or whatever. You have the little things. I love watching the YouTube videos, and Yeah.
You do have a lot of climbing in Canada.
We do.
I've climbed at Lion's Head, Ontario.
Okay.
I know there's climbing in Squamish, and I know there are other areas as well.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That is awesome.
Well, you two, thank you so much. We learned a lot about training from the back of the room and the moving away from the sage on the stage. And what was that person from the side?
Guest on the. Oh, sorry. What is it?
There's
Guide on the
guide
side.
on the side. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like
Right
that.
on.
I love
Yes.
it.
All these positions that we could teach them.
Yeah. No, yeah. Thanks so much for taking the time. We could have. Yeah. This could have gone on forever, but we really appreciated this conversation.
Yeah. Right on. Thanks to both of you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having us.
Of course.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, our pleasure. Have a great day.
Hey there, listeners. If you're enjoying the conversations here on The Extensionists, you will probably love to get our newsletter.
Yeah, it's the best way to stay connected with us, with Jay and myself, yours truly.
So,
I'm excited about the newsletter, to be honest with you, because I think
Why are you excited
well,
about
so many of our guests have
sorry. Why are you excited about it?
Say that differently, Jay. So many of our guests they say so many things of interest, right? And I feel like the newsletter will be a great way to share that with our listeners.
Like quick take homes?
Yeah.
Summaries?
Yeah, absolutely.
One-liners?
Absolutely. I think about each guest, we could probably write a whole bunch of articles from each of our guests, right? So to give our newsletter subscribers like summaries of the key takeaways of these things, plus information on upcoming guests. All the listeners have to do is go to theextensionists.com and follow the prompts to sign up for the newsletter. I think it'll be great.
Well, that was a lot of information, very interesting conversation. I like their energy.
So it's also interesting doing having four people on the podcast, right? So there's new kind of how to moderate but content wise, very, very fascinating. Yeah.
To make sure both guests get ample time to answer questions.
Yes.
And when I'm looking at Nicole and you're telling me that Jane wanted to say something, so people can't never see that, but our interface is on a screen.
Yeah.
With their two faces. Yeah. So it is a little bit of a different dynamic, but I think it worked okay.
Oh, I think it was great. It was like probably about halfway through the episode, I realized that this is an episode for extension practitioners.
Yeah.
Right. And so I mean, and that's not profound, but it could help me. I'm like, okay, let's just lean into that, right?
Yeah.
Like, because it's not gonna. I think that's there'll be a lot of value for people who are in that space, and to hear some of their approaches to things.
Is there anything you're going to try differently next time you do a presentation?
I don't know. I mean, I like the voting on learning outcomes is an interesting one. I like that. I like approaches that allow you to tailor what you're going to do, for the remainder of your time, based on who's in the room. I think are valuable, right?
Yeah.
It's like, no, well, okay, then I can cut that, or like I'm not gonna focus on that. This is what this group wants to hear about. Mostly, I like that, and I would like to think that I'm agile enough that I can make those.
Yeah. Well, and there's the movement, and even if it's just passing something.
Yeah.
That sounds intuitive in some ways, but I really like that you consciously working that into every presentation is some sort of movement.
Getting people out of their chairs and talking.
And we often talk about like writing at a grade 5 level.
Yes.
But teaching at a grade 2 level. I think there's something to be said
for
that.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not like, and I know, and I think about, the kind of work Jamie's doing in education, and like there are like there's so many analogies.
Yeah.
And lesson plan, I think Jane talked about it, or maybe Nicole, like lesson plan development, right? Like it's something you and I don't really talk about in the program, right? Like how to think about, like how to, like, you're going to a field day, you're presenting at Crop Connect. develop it. Like what's your, what do you want? What's your main message? And we do, but I guess we're not so explicit about developing a plan.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah. Like, well, taking time to prepare ahead of time, which we I would say you and I do.
We do.
But how important that is. I asked Nicole at the end about where to find more information on training from the back of the room. So it's tbrcommunity.com. So
Okay.
if anybody wanted to know more about that, tbrcommunity.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Awesome. No, great conversation. Wonderful guests.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the connection of like, Jane, she bikes, she hikes, she's like loves the outdoors clearly. Right.
Yeah.
And that kind of zest and zeal, like kind of, it came out. Right. And I mean,
Yeah, and Nicole and her rock climbing. So both outdoorsy people, and I mean that's really important to you. And I mean I walk. I don't bike.
You
I
are
don't,
too.
I don't climb rocks, but I mean I like paddling and that kind of thing. But I do think that connection with the outside air and nature and trees and farmers. I mean that's a big part of their lives, obviously.
For sure.
But for the rest of us, well, you're a farmer.
Yeah.
For me, keeping grounded in that way.
Yeah.
Is really important, just to life in general.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. But there's like these qualities, these characteristics of people. Like, you and I talk about this too when we're doing our training, and we talk about, how to create effective, presentations and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
There's always like that je ne sais quoi quality that you can't teach, right? It's like you got to be, you should be somewhat charismatic, right? You need to be an interesting person, right? But you don't say that in your in your, and like you don't say, well, you should enjoy the outdoors. You should you should get outside as a person, develop that part of you, and then you'll be able to teach better, right? Like those kinds of things. But there are those things at play always in
Right. Yeah, your personality or your interests can come out in other ways. It doesn't have to be all outdoor related. But
that's right. Yeah. I'm fixated on that now. But
But it's just about like connecting or sharing a bit about yourself or connecting with your audience.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we should wrap up.
Let's do it.
This has been the Extensionists podcast. I'm Jay Whetter.
And I'm Toban Dyck.
Till next time. This has been a Burr Forest Group production.
Jay, did you know that the podcast couldn't happen with the hard work of the people behind the scenes?
And I've got their names right here. They are Abby Wall, producer and editor, Ashley Robinson, researcher, and Michelle McMullen, marketer.